Hello and welcome to another video where I'm exploring the capabilities and limitations of Bing Chat. So this morning I thought I'd try it with something relatively new. So let me just roll back this and explain how I've got to this point. So for quite a while now I've set up in one of my, I have like a couple of Gmail accounts which I just use for subscribing to like push technologies, and over the years I've used on and off Google Alerts quite a bit. So I think in the last couple of months I decided that what I would do is set up some Google Alerts that relate to all the recent things to do with OpenAI, GPT, large language models. And a few days ago I added this term foundation models. So you can see every day with Google Alerts I get an email around the particular search term that I put into Google Alerts. You can see there's Edge Copilot, I recently added that one, GPT-4, Bing Chat, OpenAI, large language model, GPT-5. These have all been in for quite a while now. These two, like I say, were added recently, and I've got into a habit every morning. I go through these over breakfast. So these typically come through between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. So I was curious about this one, and I'd missed this piece of news. So today is Friday the 14th of April 2023. So I believe yesterday, Thursday the 13th, Amazon announced Bedrock, amongst other things as well. And if I click on this link here, you'll see this is the article on InfoWorld about this. Now, as well as Amazon Bedrock, they also announced associated technologies that align with that. And in fact, if you scroll down here, there's a number of websites that Google's alerting me to that obviously reference foundation model, and it just so happened that Amazon used that particular term a lot when referring to Amazon Bedrock. So I figured what it'd be cool to do today is, because it's a relatively new announcement, let's see how that is dealt with by Bing Chat, and then I can sort of fact check it through. I've actually brought up the announcement on Amazon Web Services, so we can sort of cross check against that. So let's look at, I'll do it there, let's use that term. I've got it in balance mode. So can you tell me about Amazon Bedrock? Let's see what it can tell me. So we'll see where we go with this. I might get it to tell me a bit more about some of the other technologies that it announced. So Amazon Bedrock is a suite of generative AI tools that can help Amazon Web Service customers, the businesses who run their operations on Amazon's data servers, build chatbots, generate and summarize text, and make and classify images and programs. It's a cloud-based and configurable alternative to OpenAI's ChatGPT and DALL-E 2 aimed at business and developers. So what I'll do is, as I've been trying to do recently, I'm going to copy this into Notepad here. this is what is in here. So you can see we got some links here, sort of opinion pieces that it's pulling across from here. Okay, so let's just see how far it's going to speculate. So what are some use cases for Amazon Bedrock? What I'll also do is I'll link to the announcement in the description. So Amazon Bedrock can be used to find the right model for various use cases and customize it accordingly with enterprise datasets before integrating and deploying it into their applications using AWS tools. It provides multiple foundation models designed to allow companies to customize and create their own generative AI applications, including programs for general commercial use. You can accelerate development of generative AI applications using foundation models through an API without managing infrastructure. So, just superficially here, you can probably see the implications of this, where you've got, pre-trained models and then leveraging those on the cloud to fine-tune them. Now, I was hoping it might start talking about foundation models specifically. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask it about foundation models, because it's useful to know, is that a term that's being used interchangeably with large language models like GPT, or is it a broader category and GPTs sort of large language models fall under within that, like they're a subset of foundation models? Superficially, my understanding is that foundation models refer to the pre-trained component of a machine language model, which you then fine-tune. So the logic being, with a foundation model, you have something that you can then build a domain-specific solution for some sort of downstream task that you want it to do. So you're leveraging, whatever model you've used, whatever foundation model you've decided to create, whether it be some sort of generative text prediction or maybe something else, and that's then there and available for you to then do whatever fine-tuning you need to do. But let's just see whether I've got that right in my head. So what is a foundation model? It was interesting because I quickly tried this morning. So this morning, so between me reading this over breakfast, I've been out for a walk, thought about it, come back. When I initially tried it on Bing Chat on my app on my iPad, it was just abbreviating to FM, and one of the suggested questions it's wanted me to ask was, instead of having FM as foundation models, it was using the term functional models, which is quite different. So I noticed this time round, as always, you get slightly different things. I'm not getting that thing where it's abbreviating it to FM and then attempting to explain functional model instead of foundation model. So that's good. So functional model is a large artificial intelligence model trained on a vast quantity of unlabeled data at scale, usually by self-supervised learning, resulting in a model that can be adapted to a wide range of downstream tasks. It is a paradigm for building AI systems in which a model trained on a large amount of unlabeled data can be adopted to many applications. Foundation models are designed to be adapted, fine-tuned to various downstream cognitive tasks by pre-training the raw data on scale. So yeah, so it's like a superset, if you like. So within this set of foundation models, large language models are a subset of that. And here you can see a foundation model can be trained using any form of unlabeled data. And it's also interesting as to whether, you know, a foundation model in and of itself has pre-trained and then also some form of fine-tuning, and then that is further fine-tuned. And then if I was unsure about self-supervised learning, I could do this. So did I ask it? Let's have a look. Yeah, let's go through this. How does it compare? So Amazon Bedrock is a machine learning platform that enables users an easy way to build and scale generative AI applications with foundation models. It is designed to allow companies to customize and create their own generative AI applications, including programs for general commercial use. Amazon Bedrock can be used to find the right model for various use cases and customize it accordingly with enterprise data sets before integrating and deploy it into their applications using AWS tools. OpenAI's ChatGPT is a generative language model that can generate human-like text. DALL-E 2 can generate more realistic, accurate images with a resolution that is 4 times better than its predecessor. Amazon Bedrock is a competitor to OpenAI's GPT and DALL-E services. So, how can I get started is a good question to ask. I do have an AWS account. I did set one up because I was several years ago playing around with like spinning up virtual desktops and then running them off of iPads as an experiment, but I didn't go down much of the other services, so maybe I need to fire my account back up and have a poke around. You can get started with them signing up to learn more on their website. Amazon Bedrock service experience allows you to get started without managing infrastructure. Okay, you can choose. Yeah, something I was listening to this morning when I was on my walk. There was a podcast where they were talking about this. And I believe you can actually just sign up for the Bedrock service without going full into AWS, but I could be wrong there. So then you can use it through an API. Okay. So after I've finished, I'm going to copy this all to a text file, so I've got this down. Now the other thing, if we just switch over into Wikipedia, I was curious if I put in Amazon Bedrock. So, you know, I do research in the saying how. So currently, I believe there are no articles. There was I noticed that something called Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Okay, so nothing yet. this. So there's their sort of front end thing. So does actually, if I sign in, okay, so it is an AWS sign in. Good to know. At least that's the way it looks. If I go sign up to learn more, okay, so slightly different way in. So I'm not going to go very deep on this. It wasn't really the purpose of the episode to actually explore this. I'm just curious as to how up to date here, or how Bing Chat navigated this relatively new announcement. So here's the actual announcement, and I found independently, and I'll include a link to that. Now what I was curious about is they did announce some other things. So Amazon Titan is their specific model here. So let's see. Tell me about Amazon Titan. So this is their proposed foundation model, I believe. Yeah. I think it's currently only available to a select few. I don't think you can go in and spin it up or leverage it. Yeah, Amazon has been testing the Titan models with a handful of customers and players, making them fully available in the coming months. So they have the container, if you like. They have the Bedrock surface, and then within that there'll be this Amazon Titan, I'm assuming. But the other interesting thing is, I wonder if they're going to be ingressing other open source functional models. Now it's got me saying functional models, foundation models, or any other foundation models out there that they can license. I suspect the answer is going to be yes. And then you'll have this sort of smorgasbord of foundational models that you can leverage in AWS. Obviously, Azure, whatever they already have, and again, I haven't really fully looked at that. I do have an Azure account somewhere. I did used to use the Microsoft Machine Learning Laboratory, I think it was called, back in the day, when I did a course in data analytics, data science. So yeah, I do have an Azure account. And obviously, you know, as we know, Google are working on their own things as well. So it's interesting how this is going to play out in terms of, you know, companies both developing their own foundational models that can then be repurposed, and also ingressing either licensed models, like, you know, with Microsoft, they obviously license GPT stuff off of OpenAI, but also anything out there currently that is already sort of, you know, people are just publishing as open source, or these other models that people have put together that have been relatively cheap to develop. I'm trying to think of the other one that was announced this week, and the name escapes me. I want to call it data blocks, but I might have got that wrong. Yeah, so there's constantly, you know, these large language models stroke foundation models being put out there for people to experiment with. So I have no doubt that those will start to appear as a service through Amazon Bedrock. It's only inevitable, I think. So there's Titan was one thing, and there was something else that which in some ways I was a bit more interested in, because, you know, I'm getting interested in the compute power involved in developing these large language models in the first place, and whether or not we're going to reach a point where, and I think this has already been discussed by people far smarter than me, which is a lot of people. Yeah, it's already been discussed about at what point do we reach. It's almost like this diminishing returns point where if we shove any more data at large language models, do we reach a point where just the computing power is so eye-watering, it's either unachievable or it's just not worth it. We just go with what we've got already. So I'm not sure about that. But I'm going to look at CodeWhisperer first while I've been yakking on here. I believe this is similar to the coding sort of co-pilot type stuff. But there is another thing. Amazon announced a specific chip that they've developed. Okay. It's interesting. Okay. I'm not gonna. Yeah, Amazon CodeWhisperer. Okay, so it claims that it doesn't know anything about that. You'll be able to read more about it in this link. And the other thing here is this chip, and it is in this announcement. And that's it, Trainium. Interesting name, eh, for a chip. So the idea is that these are, I suppose, what, an alternative to GPUs, and I suppose it's something, once you start thinking about the hardware that's used for development of machine language models, when I think back, I think I've talked about this in a episode way before I started fiddling around with Bing Chat, that my first exposure to machine neural networks, more specifically, I'm sure that at that point it was more hardware based, and I'm talking here about in the 90s. It was more like hardware based tools because software simply wasn't really, I don't think, up to the task to develop those sort of things. I mean, obviously it was a lot more rules-based expert systems. So now we've gone down this route of people using, largely things like, I suppose, Python and then other equivalents in other languages, other machine learning libraries to build their neural networks. But what's happened is, obviously, we've gone down the route of using the compute capabilities of GPUs, I suppose via their use in gaming. But obviously it makes sense to develop hardware, chips, however you want to think of it, that are specifically optimized for this sort of work. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of hardware announcements over the course of the coming months. What is Trainium? A custom chip designed by Amazon Web Services for machine learning is designed to deliver the highest performance, lowest cost for ML for training in the cloud. A barnacle architecture and is optimized for TensorFlow, PyTorch, MXNest, Okay. So it sounds like it's out there. Again, it's going to be interesting to independently validate this. I'm now curious if I search for both Trainium. Oh, why did I get train bumper there? It auto-corrected me. Nothing about Trainium yet. What was the other one? It was the Bing chat was claiming it didn't know anything. So we tried Amazon Bedrock. Let's try Amazon Titan in Wikipedia. And then we tried Trainium, and the other thing was the CodeWhisperer. Okay, so that was the other thing I was going to try. So I was just going to go into Amazon Web Services and see if this had been modified. So that's good that it's sort of taken me there. What's the most recent thing? Oh, here we go, yep. So there's an entry here about CodeWhisperer. And that's probably another article I need to just dig through. The other thing that's interesting to do with this is, and I was going to do it if it had specifically come up with articles about Trainium or CodeWhisperer or Bedrock, which is why we're originally here, to actually look at the history on here of the page. To see if I could dig through and see, when this had been modified. So I'll go to the view history, see at what point these had been updated. And added in. But again, that's an interesting thing to do with new Wikipedia articles. So yeah, I'll include the link to this in the description. I'll include a link to this here. Let me just try one thing. So we'll look up foundation models on here. I'll include a link to foundation models as well on Wikipedia. And I think once I wrap this up, I'll be kicking around a bit more in chat, seeing what I can come up with. But I thought, it's an interesting thing to try out. And certainly going forward, I'm going to be doing this a lot more of anything interesting that comes up in Google Alerts in the morning. Me trying them out on Bing chat, and I may or may not record these. I'll see how I go. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in the next video.